in case trial part 2. I don't wish to cause offense, but I like the rhetoric. Oh, not you too. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in position to draw the only logical conclusion. Note, she is keeping a record of this. This might be where the lady who records everything origined from, according to the game. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who proposed the guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We still are very much in the dark. Suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We must give a hope to uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But oh, okay. That'd be cool if she was, though. Wait, even then, like, she's typing like a storm. All right, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus and saw it too.
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? Well, sir, that would be passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. And by passenger, obviously you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason the brickmaker. And the other passenger had that knife in his hand like this. We have a liar. By the other passenger, obviously you're referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then they plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What? My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5. Do I take it that you, too, as the master of the London Guild, the coachman, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse is bolted, as they say. No, please. Just keep an open mind a little longer. Give him now, Silver Blades. The finish is in sight. Oh, Beppo's clearly lying. Beppo's a long-standing member of the guild. I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. Ah, this is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Madame juror number 6. Yes, dear, what can I do for you? Come on, old lady. You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in stand. Yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then, pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leading? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He is always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library? I can borrow some more books. How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know what kind of man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. What? Sown the crows. McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is the vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madame. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of public omnibus service? You're not saying that. The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing in his name save considerable financial liability. It would come no surprise that his creditor was the accused Magnus Gilded. Music's good. This one's really good. It will also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed, the final repayment date for his debts. Good gracious. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house, he had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender Magnus McGilder. I don't believe it.
Hold it.
If I might add something briefly, Mr. Sato, you claim that the victim had been lent money by McGilded, but where's the evidence to support your claim? Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling in my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Aha, there it is. Lord Van Zeek's hallowed chalice. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in the unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. As a judicial assistant to the defense, I am simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which detailed all monies loaned to the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice and a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. Yeah, this seems like something overkill. I'll gladly accept this new evidence. Okay, now we're gonna... Ah yes, 20 guineas. Victim owed a considerable sum. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gently personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. Sure you'll now find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen after all, they are they? Well, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness. What is it? Look at this. Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. The banker owed him money. Shouldn't that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment. Ah, yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course. But this could be very useful information. Details of the debtor's ledger have been updated in the court record. And the accused made it quite certain that he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madame, it's the modus operandi of our accused. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best. Wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more. I don't stand for nonsense. That was it. Last juror's decision. Save us, Susato, save us! According to the Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. The final verdict? It's over then. Oh, There's a footnote, though. A footnote. However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. Miss Sasato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes. You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and verdict descendant. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Do it! Do it! A summation examination.
Objection!
A summation examination, from which century has the Tomia there been resurrected? Judging by the binding, I would say that the book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Mrs. Sato? This so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails. Huh. Typical Nipponese. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. I like how he's using, like, the word Nipponese is interesting. When you say, like, Nippon, it's actually the reading for Japan out here, right? You could say Nihon or Nippon, but Nippon is used more for, like, cheers, you know? Like, go, go, Nippon, or something like that, you know? Alright, Naruhodo, I think I understand. Seems that under this procedure we'd be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what, exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And this says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions. Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really. So it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and already forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Technicalities, man. You have to change the law, otherwise it still applies. The law that's in effect is in effect until it's revoked or amended. Assert our right. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment, should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. This is Sparta. Foreman, you're the remainder of the jury already. Eh? Well, I'm not. There was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so. All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decision and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're either putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright then, the summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for this trial to turn around. So be it then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant Magnus McGilded guilty of the most serious crime. Judicial findings. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised our prices above 14 pence for years. The scoundrel stabbing the poor man on the floor. It's beggar's belief. On the floor, you say? Starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully arguments, though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get 6 people to change their minds. I must have said it while reading fast, okay? To throw everything I can at them and use very persuasive language. Just a moment, Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about their defendant. Unfortunately. Once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. And what on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work, then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front. Truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's a way to break them down, do you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see, so it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to regular cross-examination. Oh, yes, I suppose you're right. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. All right, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I will. I have to pull this off. Can we start proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord.
Objection!
These 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel, post haste. Oh, dearie me, I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all the claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw an actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, do you remember number 3? What, can't you see I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Want to test me, do you? It was like this, stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, like the Prim Baker said. Yes, that's what Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madame? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these two jurors. And he's one standing up and one on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? But bless my stitches. What a muddle. What is this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh. But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet. But what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen all in good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh dear me. I can't abide people telling lies. The scales. I don't believe it. Wait. Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you. You cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What if the two witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? Well, what of it? Let's say that Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus, and his young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again. This old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, hmm? What are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you. They're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the two witnesses see two different moments of the crime? Same crime. It's out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you Dark Jinx? Come on. Out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How could you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As a foreman of the jury, I have responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man, that we want to see? I say two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof. It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with some evidence. Some irrefutable hard evidence, as you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime, as proven by
Take that!
the autopsy report. I'm just going to open my window for a sec. It's getting... I am not looking forward to really hot days. This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once? It is quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means the witnesses could have possibly seen it happen two different times. Alright. I can see defeat. Oh, well done, Naruto. You did it. You can manage to change two more jurors' minds. You can force the trial to continue. Two more. Actually, there is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. That's where you must strike next. So I need to pit two more jurors against each other and show there another contradiction in their assertions. Exactly. You can do it. Well, scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. I can press them?
Hold it!
That's how much it costs to take the omnibus. That's right. As a guildmaster, I decided to set a policy for all drivers across the city. One fare no matter how much bus you take, or how far you're going. We have to compete with the rise of the motor car, you see. Us coachmen have to make a stand together. Motor cars, you say? Yes, and this murder on one of our buses is extremely damaging to our cause. It's beyond the pale. It'll lead to a decline of passengers, mark my words. And it's all that rascal's fault. He has to pay. The crime of his bus is more worried about. Anyway, every member of my guild is reliable and trustworthy. So if the driver says he saw him do it, that fellow in the dock is guilty of sin. So we just need to find two jurors with contradictory statements and pit them against each other. Which is so much easier said than done. Is that perhaps what you were thinking? How did you know? Well, I took the liberty of doing some research, and in case you happen to find yourself in just such a situation, shall I teach you what I found out? It's a little long, I'm afraid. Yeah, go ahead. Very well, listen to this. During statement examination, you will hear the assertions of 6 members of the jury. In this situation, the counsel for the defense should use a pit. I have a feeling it has something to do with the price.
Hold it!
I'm very particular when it comes to accounts. I see. A single penny can mean the difference between life and death, after all, can it? That's a saying in your country. My point is, a man with his mind's figures, man you can trust. Those of us in service would swear to that, sir. That bench really need any more polishing. So if the good driver says that he saw Mr. Gilbert in the act, I don't doubt him. The only task left for today is to dispose of the rubbish. Now wait a minute. One of the other jurors mentioned something about money, I think. Now would be a very good time to listen carefully to the jurors' statements again. Do you notice any consistency with the two different jurors are saying? To expose it by pitting them against each other. Yes, let's see if I can do just that.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. They do. Explain yourself, counsel. Me? Oh dear, what have I said? I swear on silver blazes in my name. I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on that night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pieces of fares. Quite right. I have those precise details typed nearly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare from the omnibus is always 4p. That's it. That's fair and convenience. Single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4p each. Do the multiplication. It would be 16 pence. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely one person's fare. One person's fare. Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger who we've heard nothing about. can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men. One and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword is good, sir. It's a fallacy. I beg your pardon? Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were the end now, the news would surely spread all over London. News that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he let a nefarious character ride his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end? Vote white. Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire into the innocent side of the setup with scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go in? Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo. Ah, this is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same. Juror 5 is angry. For the love of Mike, not you as well. A penny could be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. He did it! I love his awkward face. Wait, that means forger is now leaning not guilty. Yay, we done it, Naruhodo. We've won. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Speaking of barber, I gotta get my hair cut one day. Well, a quite remarkable turn of events. The defense summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury to adjudicate. The trial must continue. We spent literally an hour just trying to do this. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon you to continue the pursuit of the truth. Man, we're going to end up in a lot of dark places in this game. Lord Von Zykes, continue to substantiate the cause of the prosecution, if you please. Hey, one more. Chug, chug, chug. Yum, yum. Num, num. Holy shit! Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hollow chalice. Just fucking. It may seem crass and crushed to dust. Pray forgive this discourtesy. Okay, guys, story time. One day when I was in university, I had the bright idea of running out of cups. Well, it's not my fault I ran out of cups. I was in a shared roommate home with like 4 other guys. I have 3 cups to my name and I used all 3. And I didn't wash the 3, so that's fine. So, stupidly, I thought it was a brilliant idea to use a wine glass. Like the aforementioned one. For Pepsi. And I finished the Pepsi, and because I was a lazy piece of shit, I decided to put the wine glass on the floor next to me. Like, I'm talking like if this was my bed right there, I put the glass down on the floor. I got up after I was done what I was doing, which was watching anime, and hopped right up. Like, I'm talking like a hop, because I was a young, energetic guy then. I then stepped on said wine glass and tore a circular hole through my fucking base of my foot. I'm talking like right here all the way around. I almost tipped the whole load of skin off. It sucked. And I had to get stitches. Coincidentally, I was also a roofer. And you know what that means? 3 days because I requested 2 days off work. 3 days after, injury on foot, I had to step onto a searing hot building, 40 above. And that was the most painful day of my life. Actually, no, it wasn't, but it hurt like a bitch over the day, and I got used to it. I shit you not. 1 week later, 1 frickin' week later, I go to my grandmother's, and when you're with grandma and you're recovering from a foot injury and you're having a relaxed day, and grandma calls you over for some, baking and stuff like that, and you want to just relax, grandma gives me a muffin and a big circular cup of orange juice like this. Like, we're talking like this tall from my head. And so I had it, and I did the same thing. I put the circular glass on the floor beside me. Guess who got up again? 1 week later, I hopped right up, and the same foot that had that injury hit the floor onto the glass. And this time, with my previous wound like this, I'm just gonna bring the camera down. So if this was like the foot injury here, I tore a giant hole like this. If I took a knife right now and I cut it, it would look like this. It would go like this. Kick, kick. So I cut a diagonal slice. You can kind of see a trace of the scar from there, actually, if you look close enough. And so I hit this part of my foot here. 2 weeks later, I hit this part of my foot here, and had to get more stitches to the same goddamn foot. That hand breaking brought back bad memories, man. Terrible memories of that foot incident. His hand should be in stitches. Unless he had, like, really thick gloves. And even then, you're playing with death here, man. Seems crass to crush to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks. Is that cold in here, or is it just me? At your antiquated tome, no doubt says the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. Oh, he insulted the jury. There's nothing so hard to prove self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Also, this music is fucking hopping, man. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Yes, sir, that I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh, yes, sir, I heard it. You, sir, on the end, the coachman, I believe it's Beppo. Yes, sir. My lord, sir. If it transpires that you, in a previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh, mio Dio, Now then, witness, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. Here we go. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. But, well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGiddle stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh, yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes. Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence. May I learn the friend never existed. The confusion has arisen for the coachman's sly little cozinge. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4-piece across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last one of the day is always half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo. A disgrace. You and your selfish actions have brought dishonor to the entire guild. If I may, sir, I have to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. So I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings had already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely.
Hold it!
Okay. Only 4 passengers are carried, but you didn't charge them a standard 4-piece fare. Is that right?
Excuse me.
Mr. First. Oh, how can I help you, sir? That last statement, did it trouble you in some way? Oh, not particularly, sir. No. If anything, he's troubling me with that hat of his. Has he greased his head? Oh dear, sir, I hope my hat's not troubling you, sir. I'm still just an apprentice, you see. Mr. Naruhodo, even the witnesses can see what's going through your mind. You really must be more careful. Ah, I wish it were that simple.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you that I did. A flat 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the Phantom Killer you so desperately needed, it's gone. Dead and buried. I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place.
Hold it!
This blood-curdling sight. You mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir. A loathsome sight. No one should have witnessed the horror in the eyes of man the moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed. Good gracious. Really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker get next to me take a sharp intake of breath, I see. That's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw the horrible blade poking out of his belly. All covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. I saw McGill stabbing the man. Everything I said before stands. So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGill, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before, that was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only 2 of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a 5th passenger, but as yet, 0 evidence. Then we're wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white, the man's guilty. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was. If you're not careful when you press these witnesses, the danger that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful as they did before. Maybe, but we can't let the fear in that happening stop us from recovering important new information. Yes, you're so right. I needed to pay careful attention to here.
Hold it! Hold it!
Trio's dead? Oh, is it actually? Yeah, it totally is. The victim was on the floor, described the assailant holding a knife and an ice-pick grip. I might have, yes. Put in the cart before the horse, I mean. What's this? Well, I quite sure most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the roof deck.
Excuse me! Hold it!
So there's only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them for standard fare. Is that right?
Excuse me!
Oh, whoops. One way or the other. Do you have some affliction? Not really. He's not really willing to say anything, it seems. None of your business anyhow.
Hold it!
You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night. Then we would have had another suspect.
Hold it!
Aaron aboard and I paid 5 cents instead of 4. Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir.
Excuse me!
Ah, shit. I hate when I'm looking and then I press A and then I just interrogate something. What do you mean? I can't help wondering, will the cursed carriage like someone killed in? Or will everyone want to ride in it? Yes, that's the cursed carriage. Could be an attraction, maybe. It could be sink or swim moment for me. I think it will be. Well, if you could just focus on the testimony for the time being, please.
Hold it!
There's blood curling in sight.
Hold it!
So you saw the defendant guilt stabbing the victim who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It's bothering me.
Hold it!
Earlier, you testified you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose. I might have, you know, yes. Put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats of the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then I turned around, yes. Saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking up of his midriff. That's right, yes. And the fellow holding the handle was a famous man, yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no. I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Bruce! Excuse me.
Oh, that was really obvious. Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. You didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. Might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Well, it's a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through skylight at the top of the omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it's as clear as Ballarat Day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot into the collie there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that all right. I'm going to tell you how grim it was. We're ready.
Objection!
Blood-soaked hands, huh? Blood-soaked hands. Well, I admit that it's soaked might be laying it on a little thick, but... Well, yeah, actually, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGildred, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But I'm sure you can clearly see. It's only on the right-hand glove. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. But no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said, here, it was in both hands. Gah. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? No, well, It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over his hands, which means there's a strong possibility that his witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie, but is that really the case? If we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. Oh, there's evidence. My lord. Yes, counsel. The defense is ready to present evidence. I know, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present the evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception to the court.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas, not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Ah, well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They'd cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, it is not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw. In a devious attempt to annul the debt of 20 guineas to the defendant. Order, 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 Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord? Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment at the time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. He's very symmetrical. A pinch. But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on Mr. McGilded's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we can have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is that I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both his hands, not just one. What? But the gloves... It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yarks. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes, I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say I didn't see the exact moment of stabbing, if that matters.